Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation. I'm Zixuan, and here are my group members, Feng Ru, Xinlan, and Tianyi. And today we are excited to be here to share our findings on topic of multilingualism and identity construction among Chinese ethnic minority English as foreign language students. And our content includes introduction, literature review, methodology results, discussion, conclusion, and references. And first of all, I'd like to introduce the introduction of our research. Multilingualism, the ability to master multiple languages, is a vital tool in globalization, connecting cultures and expanding horizons. For ethnic minority students in China, it reflects their language achievements while posing the challenge of balancing integration into Mandarin and English-dominated environments with preserving their ethnic language and culture. This dual pleasure becomes even more complex in overseas study and will multilingual competence deeply influence identity construction. Ethnic minority students must navigate constantly evolving roles in multicultural settings, balancing their linguistic and cultural identities. And our existing research often overlooks their unique experiences, focusing primarily on Han Chinese students. And this study aims to bridge this gap by exploring how ethnic minority students perceive and practice multilingualism and how it shapes their identities during study abroad. And then next is our research questions. First of all is how do Chinese ethnic minority students studying abroad define and perceive multilingualism? And next is how do Chinese minority students practice and use the language they speak in their daily lives and academic settings? And the next is how does multilingualism affect these students' identity construction? Okay, next, Tianyi will introduce the next part.
Here are some key findings from previous research. First, research has consistently highlighted the profound connection between multilingualism and identity construction. Language acquisition and usage are not just tools for communication, but are deeply intertwined with self-perception and identity. For Chinese ethnic minority students, multilingualism is a balancing act. It involves maintaining fluency in heritage languages, Mandarin and English. This balance allows students to engage with diverse cultural environments while preserving their ethnic identities. However, challenges abound as students must integrate into broader national and global communities while safeguarding their cultural heritage. Studies have shown that multilingualism fosters autonomy and cognitive flexibility, and that switching between languages invokes both empowerment and vulnerability. Second, multilingual practices vary across social and functional contexts. Research indicates that immersion in multicultural environments compels students to actively negotiate their linguistic identities. This adaptability is particularly salient for ethnic minority students who navigate heritage, national, and global linguistic domains. Mandarin often dominates academic and social interactions, while heritage languages are reserved for family and cultural rituals. Meanwhile, English facilitates global communication but can sometimes challenge the reconciliation of multilingual identities. Third, studying abroad adds another dimension to multilingual identity construction. Chinese ethnic minority students experience a multilingual turn, where they adapt to diverse linguistic ecologies. This shift often amplifies tensions between embracing new linguistic identities and preserving their heritage. While English becomes a powerful tool for global engagement, its prominence may overshadow native languages, raising concerns about cultural erosion. Now let's move to research gaps. Despite the valuable insights from prior studies, Critical gaps remain in understanding the multilingual experiences of Chinese ethnic minority students, particularly in the context of studying abroad. These gaps include the following 3 points. First, research really examines how heritage languages contribute to the multilingual identity of ethnic minority students. This perspective is vital for understanding the full spectrum of their linguistic experiences. In addition, existing literature often generalizes the experiences of Chinese international students, overlooking the unique challenges faced by ethnic minorities in balancing heritage, national, and global linguistic identities. Finally, limited research explores the emotional and psychological implications of multilingual practice, which are crucial for understanding students' personal and academic challenges in multilingual settings. By addressing these gaps, we can develop a more comprehensive understanding of how multilingualism influences identity and adaptation among Chinese ethnic minority students in a globalized world. This understanding will not only enrich academic discourse, but also inform policy and practice in international education. And next is methodology part.
Well, this is the methodology. Actually, the study employs a qualitative research design using both a questionnaire and interview to gather data from Chinese ethnic minority learners who learn English as a foreign language. While for the participants, Chinese EFL students in the University of Malaya participated in this study via online survey and personal interview. Among them, all participants are anonymous, but for a purpose of convenient coding, each participant was assigned a randomly chosen name by the researchers, presented in the format of name plus ethnicity to distinguish them. To ensure all the participants are belonging to Chinese ethnic minority groups, participants will answer a questionnaire with background information. Finally, 10 of participants who were willing to participate in a semi-structured interview will be invited to join the study. And here is a table presenting the background information of these 10 participants involved in this study. The data collection consisted of 2 stages. First, a questionnaire was distributed via a Google Form link containing 4 open-ended questions. What is your ethnicity? What is your mother tongue? What is your second language? And what is your third language? Second, 10 participants were invited for semi-structured interviews. The semi-structured interviews included 3 parts. The first part questions focused on their perception of multilingualism. The second part addressed their multilingual practices. And the third part explored the impact of multilingualism on their identity. And here is about this is a sample of our personal background information survey. And here is about how we analyze our data from the interviews. While to answer research question 1, content analysis focuses on participants' feelings and perception about their multilingual abilities, identifying themes about the advantages of multilingualism, comparisons with monolinguals, and the role of each language in their lives. To answer research question 2, the analysis examines participants' language practices, such as which language they use most frequently, why, and in which context, reviewing the practical aspects of their multilingualism. To answer research question 3, the analysis explores how learning English has impacted participants' ethnic identity and their emotional responses when switching between languages, providing insights into the psychological effects of multilingualism on their identity construction. And this part is our results, and this table is the overview of the results. To be specific, all 10 participants defined multilingualism as the ability to speak multiple languages proficiently and express overwhelmingly positive views. 9 participants highlighted that multilingualism enhanced their cultural understanding, communication skills, and adaptability. For example, one participant whose ethnicity is Tibetan viewed multilingualism as a way to connect with diverse communities. Besides, participants also emphasized the specific roles of each language in their lives. For example, the minority language such as Tibetan, one participant mentioned that it was tied to cultural identity and traditions, and Mandarin Chinese was used for education and opportunities in China, while English language was seen as a gateway to global knowledge and connections. While for language practices, participants demonstrated diverse language practices depending on the context. For example, in daily life, 8 participants reported use Mandarin Chinese most frequently due to its domains in their social lives. As for minority language, they were typically reserved for personal and cultural settings, such as family gatherings. For example, one participant who spoke Cantonese. He mentioned that he will use Cantonese to discuss with his or her family and community members. In terms of academic settings, English language was the primary language for 7 participants, particularly for lectures, assignments, and research. One participant who is from Mongolian minority groups, he or she highlighted the importance of English for attending international conferences and assessing academic resources. Participants also displayed situational language switching, adapting their language use based on the context. For example, one participant used Mandarin Chinese at home, English for studies, and Arabic for prayers, reflecting the functional adaptability of their multilingualism. Finally, multilingualism significantly influenced participants' identity construction. For example, 7 participants noted that learning English expanded their sense of self, making them feel more connected to the global community while reinforcing their cultural roots. To be specific, one participant who is from Nazi minority group described himself as a global citizen who still valued his minority language. Despite learning English, six participants actively sought to pursue their cultural practices, minority language, or dialect. A participant who is from Chinese minority group, for instance, introduced Guizhou batik art to international peers. Also, speaking native language brought feelings of warmth, belonging for 8 participants. In contrast, using language felt empowering but occasionally intimidating, as it symbolized engagement with a competitive global environment. And this is our summary of key findings and implications. And the next part is about our discussion and conclusion.
Okay, let's move on to discussion part first. We examine how Chinese ethnic minority students studying abroad construct and negotiate their multilingual identities. A key finding from the analysis was the dual role of multilingualism as both an asset and a source of tension. On one hand, being multilingual is a huge advantage. It gives them access to different cultures and academic opportunities, but at the same time, many worry about losing their heritage languages. This reflects what the research found. Studying abroad can transform a student's multilingual identity in significant ways. Students don't just stick to one language, they switch between their heritage, national, and global languages. Depending on the situation, they do this to express themselves better and fit into different settings, such as social interactions, academic settings, and personal conversations.
The choice of language isn't random, it's highly context dependent. That is to say, each language serving a specific role in different settings. We conduct semi-structured interviews, which give us rich, detailed data on students' multilingual strategies. But there were challenges. The biggest one was making sure that the themes we identified truly reflected students' real experiences rather than our own assumptions. To keep things as accurate as possible, we reviewed and refined our coding process multiple times. Next, let's looking at our conclusion part. This study also has practical implications. First, universities and institutions need to create inclusive language environments that don't just focus on global languages like English, but also support heritage languages. One way to do this is through mentorship programs and multilingual career workshops, which can help students use their language skills in both academic and professional settings. Also, inclusive language policies would allow students to use multiple languages freely without feeling pressures to give up their native tongue. As for future directions aspect, well, this study captured participants' experiences at one point in time. Future research could build on this study, look at the issue over a longer period. And we can combine qualitative and quantitative research approach. This would help us to get a more comprehensive understanding of identity shifts and to make findings more applicable to different multilingual groups. Future research should include participants from a wide range of ethnic and linguistic backgrounds. And next page is about our references that we used in our study. That's all. Thank you for listening.